Breathwork changed my life, now I'll help you change yours. In 2013, my world was turned upside down when my partner was murdered. I was thrown into grief, a place I never expected to be. The last decade plus has been a journey of healing, learning what works and what doesn't. Also how to rebuild from the darkest of places. I founded Verity Jo Breathwork, a method designed to make healing simple and accessible, and now I train facilitators to share this transformative practice globally. Welcome to The Dark Side with Verity, the podcast where we get real about transformation, growth, and stepping into your strength. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Dark Side with Verity, a podcast where we go into all the nitty-gritty of my story as I made my way through grief. I'm realizing now there's loads to share with you because it's been 13 years and it's important to pause and reflect and see how far I've come. Grief is something that doesn't disappear. It's not something we let go of. It's not something that we can change. All we can do is create space within our body to make life manageable, feel easier, and day by day you become more resilient and you work out how to be happier in every single moment. You appreciate the small things a lot more because you understand what truly matters in life, and that's the relationships that you form with people. Everything else, even those, can be ripped away in a second. So just pause for a minute and be grateful for being alive. Be grateful for being here in this moment, in this world, in this time. We can focus on the negatives if we want, not saying to be overly positive either, because I've been in that phase and look, everything works for a minute. And then you become a little wiser, a little bit more knowledgeable in certain areas. And so nothing is wrong. It's just that we're learning. The court case proceedings took a year before anything was happening. And I'm told that that is a quite quick process. This was something that I just wanted to be done, as I wanted to give myself a little bit of freedom and get out of Darwin. Darwin felt like a very small town in that time for me. I felt like everybody knew what was going on, when in reality they probably didn't. It's just that that's how I felt every time I had to go to the shops, every time I had to go to do something. It just felt like a lot. And so in that year, I spent a lot of time in nature. Any second that I could be fishing or camping, I was. And not that that's particularly changed. Those moments I felt like I needed to do something would disappear. Because when you're sitting on a boat fishing, I am calm. Phone doesn't work. There's nothing else I can go and do. And it's so funny how my body reacts. Like I can be on a boat and the first 15 minutes guaranteed I'll have like a mini nap, because it's like my whole system just goes like, oh yes, like we can relax. And fishing is when you're in your feminine energy. You're hunting, you're gathering. That's why it's really good for guys and girls. It is just that nourishment for your body and soul. And so that was my happy place, and being away from everything, because when I was in town, I was working on my business and that kept me going. So I was running my interior design company and I had lots of clients, lots of beautiful clients, and I was busy. And when I was working, fine. When I was fishing, camping, fine. But then there's those moments where you're in bed by yourself, and I'd be like writing letters to Josh, or you get invited to birthday parties and you have to go by yourself, and if someone has a baby and they're like, oh no, should I invite her? Is this going to trigger her? I'm still a normal person and I still loved the decision to be made by me. I wanted to be invited and I wanted the freedom to be like, yes, this feels good, or no, not today. So always invite people who are grieving or people who have been through big things, because it's their decision. You already feel like you've joined a different club. So it's nice to be back in the world. That's how I used to feel. Now, couldn't care less. And I don't know whether that's the more I healed or the older I got. Cannot tell you, but that part gets a lot easier, because the more you channel just being in your own lane and doing your own thing, it gets easier. I want to say less rebellious, but that's probably not true. The court proceedings, I had to do my victim impact statement. I obviously wasn't there, but a victim impact statement was how this incident, whatever you call it in the courtroom, how do you put that into words, by the way? I'm not sure. I'm struggling here. So did it the legal way, I guess. And it was all written. And then the night before court, sitting up with my sister, the rebellious side comes back out. All the side that like goes against all the systems and all of that stuff rears its head. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want to say. Like, how is this even a courtroom thing? Like, how are they deciding when everybody already knows what the other person is saying? Like, you just had to stand up there and read out what you've pre-said and written. Like, isn't it a space of wanting to be like you're sharing from emotion? Or did I have to recount things logically what had happened? I'm not a logical person. So it became obviously like way more emotional, plus my rebellious part. So I'm like, that's it, Luce. We are changing this. So we rewrote my whole victim impact statement, printed it out 4 times as to go to all the different people in the courtroom. And when I got up there, I read my own, and I remember them saying, Miss Coonan, this is different. And I don't remember if I handed them out to the people. Again, this is a memory thing. Like, it's blocked out bits and pieces, because also I couldn't tell you what the guy looks like who did it. No idea. So I could run into him in the street now and not know who he is. I remember his name because it was printed everywhere. But I wouldn't be able to pick him out. So in that moment, I think I said, I don't know if these are probably my words. I have to own it. An eye for an eye, a life for a life. Whatever I said got printed like in the front of the paper. Looking back now, would I have said that? I don't know. There's no point in looking back with regrets. It is what it is. I said it. And for me, that felt like a big fuck you to the system and the court and to him, just probably because I wanted to cause chaos. Who knows? The only other time that I'd like been in a courtroom was I had to go there because driving home it was after a night out. I was partying at the club that I was working at. So I wasn't actually working, or maybe I was coming home from work. I'm not sure, but it was 4 a.m. and a car had sideswiped my car, and it ended up being a girl that I went to primary school with and hadn't seen for years. We all got called into the courtroom, and the night before I remember closing up the restaurant that I was working at and had gone out feeling like a bit anxious because my ex from years ago was in town, and then I don't remember anything from that night. And so my drink was definitely spiked because I was only there for like 15 minutes. The other time I remember being in the courtroom, like so dazed and out of it, having to be there with not having to do anything. I didn't even get called into the courtroom. So there's not great memories of being in a courtroom. And it all feels like it's so structured. Obviously it has to be, but like it's all pre-written. So how are they making a decision then and there if maybe they've been over all the notes? Or I don't know if the judge sees the notes prior. I'm not sure. I just think the whole system, and I'll share more of my life before Josh, and you'll probably understand a bit more why I don't enjoy the system and their processes. So after the court case, we all went back to our home because our home became like a party place. The pool ended up being finished. So he would have been stoked to see this pool. This huge 65,000 litre pool, enough room so we could play volleyball, enough room so that we could sit 2 banana lounge day beds in the pool. He wanted an underground bar to be dug out next to the pool. When they were digging the pool, him and his friend Buddha were just like, is this big enough? Like, do we need it bigger? I'm like, oh yeah, 1 more meter. He's like, that's another 10 grand. I'm like, oh, I don't know, it'll be fun. Like, we'll love it. And so this pool had colourful lights, it was beautiful. I'm just devastated that he never got to swim in this pool that we both designed. From then, I planned my trip because my 30th birthday was a month after the court case. So a little bit like the funeral, not sure how all of my friends stuck around for all of this, because it's like my 30th birthday would would have been my wedding, like how I would have designed my wedding. It had an itinerary. We stayed in this luxurious villa in Uluwatu that had an infinity pool. I had my 30th birthday party at El Cabron. So I'd seen El Cabron before it is like what it is now. It was a cliff top bar with bean bags, and Kashida and I were on a Bali trip, and we'd been, you know, when you have those days when you're traveling and you have no plans, but you're always there before the crowds and you get like the best seats. You get at Sundays at Finn's, we got to use all the toys, like the paddle boards, the snorkels, and then we just scooted around with like no plan. And we came across this cool little bar, and I was like, this is where I'm going to have my birthday. Like, this will be fun. And then when I got back there, when it was my actual birthday, they'd like sectioned off this little area for us. There was all these cinema looking chairs looking at the sunset. It's like, whoa, this is like way too fancy. This is not the vibe that I had planned for my bohemian 30th birthday / wedding. I had this like lacy white top to beautiful dress and this diamante like crown thing on. Hilarious. And the birthday party was fun. We all drank a lot. And I probably would have ended up in Bali jail if it wasn't for my friend Danny, because the price that this was at the end of the night, by the way, and I had way too many drinks. The end of the night, they'd given us the bar tab, and it was like $300 extra that I owed them, but on principle, like I wasn't going to pay. And I drove off on my scooter thinking I was so cool, only to realize years later, she tells me that she ended up paying that bill. Here's me thinking I've like got away with it, this little crim. No, once again, my friends covered my ass. It was just such a full-on trip for everybody, because the trip started with everybody having dinner at this cool place called Year's Warong, and everyone had ordered their meals. I think it was all a big share platter, and my sister and I had gone outside to probably have a cigarette, and her and I were having a drink, laughing, and then she looked at me and said, I don't feel very well, and stopped breathing. You can imagine the scream that I let out, because my mum heard it and she thought, what the hell? Sounds like someone's died. I thought my sister had died. Luckily, there was a lady sitting next to us who was a paramedic and was straight onto it, resuscitating her. The next thing, my mum, dad, my sister and I are like flying down the hill of Uluwatu back to Kuta to the hospital. My sister's hooked up on all these heart machines. She ended up being fine. Pretty sure it was Iraq. I, again, had more drinks. And so I was in the hospital thinking it's hilarious, hooking myself up to all of the machines, sucking on the gas, just in a world of my own, to be honest. I really didn't care whether I lived or died. It's like there were no consequences to what I did. And yeah, I just couldn't see the point of living the way that I'd lived previously. Like, got everything organized. It's like a little homemaker. Like, I loved having dinners. I loved, like, we worked hard for everything that we were building together, our home, our life, our relationship. And it was just gone. So it was kind of like, I don't know whether like, obviously I wasn't subconsciously thinking this, like a big fuck you to the world. But that's pretty much how it came across, I'm sure. So all of these times and moments, I'm like, oh, cringe. All I can put it down to is I learn. I keep learning. And I'll always forever learn, like far out. So the Bali trip was also the start of my holiday to Mexico and all through Central America. I highly recommend travel for people because, one, you're out of the place that it happened, whatever it is, your trauma, your grief, whatever incident that happened, you can remove yourself from that. And it's refreshing for people to not know your story. It's free. It's probably why I spent so much time in Bali the year before, because I just wanted to get away. And Bali is like my healing place. But traveling the world was just like the next step. Because what do you have to do each day when you travel? Nothing. You're looking at everything with fresh eyes, new eyes. Maybe you need to decide what you eat. So that was really calming in a sense for my nervous system. And when I say calming, the travel was, I say it's healing, it's calming. What actually happened on that holiday was anything but that. It was the opposite end of the scale. So I'll share all of that in the next episode. This is really more about having to navigate the court system, the media, what people say about you. What I've learned is people will talk anyway. People will make up their own mind about you. People have this conception still of what age we're supposed to do things. There's a timeline. There's none. Imagine putting all these expectations on life to only then be let down. Like, that's a pretty hard slog to continuously come up from. So it's nice to let things be and not care what people think. When I tell all these stories, I feel like I continue to have to preface this that I'm not saying what I did was right. This is how it happened. And all the things that I did and the adventures that I had the year after was a lot. Our group of friends was so close. Like, because the guys worked out at sea, all of us girls would rally together, and the guys would do the same. Like, when one of them was out at sea, you could ring any of the other guys and they would come and help you move something or shift something. Or my mum and dad growing up had all these different groups of friends, and everyone lived like around the block, and all of us kids would roam around the streets. Like, that's what I felt that I had achieved, or it's not an achievement, I had become part of and created a life that felt very homey, very family orientated and friend orientated. So yes, like, I lost Josh, but I also lost who I was in that time, because like, I loved cooking dinners for everybody. I loved going camping with everybody and organizing all the food that we would take. So it's not just losing a person, you lose a version of yourself. That's hard, especially when I finally got to a version of myself that I loved. Because growing up, and again, I'll share all this stuff at another time. There was so much about me that I didn't like: my body, my voice, like, the list could go on, but I'd gotten to a point where I was just so content. So all of this makes that loss bigger, because grief is a lot about, you love the version of yourself when you're with that person. You're always your own person, but your lives are melded together. And when it's your person, you want to be a better version of yourself, not for them. They just make you want to be better. That's how you know it's a great relationship. You continue to work on yourself. You're willing to work on things that trigger you or upset you. It's all just pieces that you can heal. So it's having to find how you show up in the world when it's just you. And for me, that meant changing my career, because previous I was an interior designer and I needed to find answers in a different way, because the first year it worked. I just kept busy. But as time went on, I learned that busy is another coping mechanism. I learned that being about things is another coping mechanism. I learned that training at the gym excessively is another coping mechanism. Drinking, drugs, all of these things are coping mechanisms. Because I'm very crafty about finding ways to not feel my emotions. It's like lifting a big lid off, right? You don't know what's going to come out. And I understand now why some people are terrified to do a breathwork session with me, because we don't know what's going to come out. But I promise you this: the quicker you learn to feel your emotions, the easier this stuff becomes. Because the more we push them down and hide them in our body and forget, it's when they become stress in our body, it becomes dis-ease in our body. So this place of being able to feel your emotions is really to nourish yourself. And so this isn't a breath technique that I'm going to give you. This is a sentence that I was gifted from one of my beautiful yoga friends, Rachel. Does this nourish me? And I utilize this across the board with so much stuff, whether it's spending time with a person, whether it's taking on a new client, whether it's eating a certain food, going out and partying and drinking. We change all the time. And so at that point in time, Is this going to nourish me? Take time to ask yourself this question, but also make it fun. Like, all of this stuff can be light. Like, healing doesn't have to be deep depth. My whole point and journey was to make this process feel a little lighter. Life is heavy enough. Life is tough enough. So make your healing lighter. See the dark side. In a lot of stuff, my humor just gets darker and darker. But this moment, ask, does this nourish me? Trust the answers. Trust yourself. Thank you for listening. Much love. Fee. Breathwork changed my life. Now I'll help you change yours. In 2013, my world was turned upside down when my partner was murdered. I was thrown into grief, a place I never expected to be. The last decade plus has been a journey of healing, learning what works and what doesn't. Also, how to rebuild from the darkest of places. I founded Vidya Breathwork, a method designed to make healing simple and accessible, and now I train facilitators to share this transformative practice globally. Welcome to The Dark Side with Verity, the podcast where we get real about transformation, growth, and stepping into your strength. Let's dive in.